Hi, my name is Nick Bowman, and I'm going to be going over Chapter 5, the Progressive Era. So, at the time, immigration was at an all time high. Most of these immigrants coming from Southern and Eastern Europe and parts of Russia. At the time, a fourth of the United States population was actually built up of immigrants. And these people brought new cultural norms that we see in the melting pot of America today and built very tight knit communities within each other. Labor was very different from what we see today as well. It was very common to be working 72-hour work weeks and barely making enough to even survive. At the time, you only needed $15 a week just to get by, and the majority of people weren't even making that. Not only that, but regulations and labor unions were not a thing this time, so it was very common to see children working in these dangerous conditions that ended up killing and injuring over 500,000 people every year. This brought progressives who introduced reforms and regulations, such as rights of laborers and political corruptness. Uh, Positive reforms during this time was the Mother's Pension Program that helped widows and mothers who had been abandoned. Child labor laws, first through the Keaton-Owen Act of 1916, later on in the 30s, finally becoming full labor laws, and Jane Addams' Whole House, which was a settlement house that treated immigrants very well, unlike other ones at the time. The Progressive Party was started in 1912 by former President Theodore Roosevelt. It lasted until 1920 and was nicknamed the Bull Moose Party because of a speech given by Theodore Roosevelt. This election was against President Taft, who was the Republican candidate, former President Roosevelt, who was of course, the progressive candidate, and future President Woodrow Wilson, who eventually won as the Democratic candidate. Woodrow Wilson pushed a lot for women's right to vote at this time, which is a big part of the oppression of this era. Women's suffrage movement was a key movement at the time. Uh, the 19th Amendment finally being added in 1920 even. African Americans were also highly discriminated against in this time, especially in the South, with the invention of Jim Crow laws. And Asian Americans were also discriminated against with the introduction of land owning laws and exclusion laws. Spanish speaking persons at the time were also very restricted due to language barriers. They made up most of the labor force in the Southwest simply because they had very little access to education and higher language, again, due to the language barrier. And here are my references.